Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to this Textile Talk podcast. I'm Gail Cowley and I'll be your host today. Joining me for this episode is textile artist Cassandra Dias. Just to give you a little bit of background before we start our chat. Cassandra was born in Santa Barbara, California in 1985 and has been creating art since she was old enough to pick up a crayon and put it to paper. She started her self-taught embroidery journey in January 2020 with a bag of vintage DMC thread and quickly became passionate about the mindful work of creating her landscape hoops, going on to develop her style over the following months during the pandemic lockdown. Her work has since been reviewed on Colossal, My Modern Met and School of Stitch Textiles. She has been featured in print in Love Embroidery magazine, the Montecito Journal and Studio Visit Book Volume 3 by Arts to Hearts Project. She also taught an online workshop for members of the Stitch Club on textileartists.org and presented live with Creative Spark online learning. Her work was selected to be included in the group exhibition Open Call All Media 2025. At Studio Channel Islands in Camarillo, California. And most recently she wrote her first book, Richly Stitched Landscape Embroidery, Mastering Thread Painted Scenes, which is scheduled to be released on April the 28th, 2026. Cassandra lives and works in Camarillo, California, where she continues to produce original art pieces and shares her love of hand embroidery on her social pages. Before we dive into the conversation, a quick thank you to the School of Stitch Textiles for supporting this podcast. They are the UK's leading provider of City and Guilds accredited home study courses in textiles. From beginners through to advanced master practitioner programs, you can study flexibly from home with expert tutor support. Visit sofst.org to find out more. Hi, Cassandra. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. And I know that you've got it super early, haven't you? Because you're in California in the US. So you've got it super early to do this podcast. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So I suppose the first thing, if I could, is to just ask if you could tell us a little bit about your journey into textiles, where you came from, what you were doing beforehand, and what made you decide that that was the path you wanted to follow.
Well, I have been a stay-at-home mom for quite a while now, and I've always been into creating things since I was a little kid. Getting into embroidery, though, I was originally inspired by several moms that I followed on Instagram at the time, and they mainly did lettering and floral designs, and their creations were so cute. It just made me want to try and stitch a simple design on this hand-me-down jacket that I had for my daughter. And I just remembered I had an old bag of floss stored away in a closet, so I pulled it down to give it a try, and that's what originally got me started with embroidery.
Okay, because it's actually quite a recent thing for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I started in 2020, so I haven't been embroidering for that long. But yeah, it's been a short while, but I've learned a lot throughout the process so far, and I'm still
Yeah.
continuing to learn.
Was it something that you did or that your mum did or that you did maybe as a child and then you went back to, or was it just completely new to you?
This was completely new. Like I said, I was following some moms on Instagram. Once I was following them and started liking their pictures, a lot of different embroidery artists started popping up on my browse feature on Instagram. So I just kind of kept following new artists and was just continuously inspired by them.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I never really was into it before that. So I was
Okay.
kind of lucky to have fallen into it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, January 2020, we all know what was happening because it was COVID, wasn't it? And there was so much upheaval in the world.
Right.
So, did that have an influence perhaps on you looking round for things to do?
Yeah, it absolutely did. It was kind of like, we were all stuck at home. We were under those strict stay-at-home orders for the pandemic, and I was kind of getting a little restless, a little stir crazy, so I needed an outlet, and luckily, I had that. Like, I had just started embroidering before we were all said to stay home. I realized that after a month or so of trying to like explore with embroidery and try different stitches and subject matter, I landed on landscapes, and I found that creating those landscapes kind of allowed my mind to get out of the house, even though I
Yeah.
physically couldn't. So
Mm.
that was great. It was really a much needed outlet for me.
Oh, I'm sure. Did you do other things besides embroidery? Are you sort of artistic in general, but in other ways?
Yeah, I've been, like I said, creating since I was a child. I love drawing and painting, and I took a couple art classes in junior high where I explored with different mediums like oil painting, and I got into collage as well. And then in high school, I took a ceramics class and just continued kind of exploring different mediums. And after college, I got into silkscreen printing. So I've done a lot of different types of art.
Silk screen printing, something that it needs quite a lot of equipment, doesn't it? So it's something that you almost need a studio set up for, I imagine.
I found like a really small silkscreen printer, and I just set it up in my house. So it wasn't that big, but yeah, there was some like the ink and the tote bags that I would print on. I was just kind of storing stuff in closets. It was getting a little cluttered around here.
Do you actually have somewhere that you can spread all your things out and work, a studio that you can just call your own space?
Not a studio, but I have kind of created my own workspace in a corner of our living room. And it works for me because it's right in front of a window, so I get lots of natural light to see all my embroidery floss colors. And I have like a credenza next to that where I store my floss. And yeah, I have a little setup, but not a big studio. Hopefully, maybe in the future.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if you have young children at home.
Yeah, definitely. Have my own space to just go into and work.
So, I mean, I know for many of us, and probably some of the listeners as well, that embroidery can feel like quite a traditional craft. I think we tend to go back to thinking of maybe table runners or napkins or something like that.
Right.
Um, but for you, it seems that it's very contemporary and expressive, really. Was there a moment that you sort of realised that you weren't just stitching, but that you were creating art with a thread?
It's funny that you say, like, contemporary and more modern because I've always felt that my work was kind of had a more traditional feel to it, but maybe that's just because the influence of the subject matter I like to stitch, which is the classic early landscape paintings I'm inspired by. I think it was more of a gradual realization rather than one particular moment that I was really starting to find a place for myself in the embroidery world just because of all the positive feedback I was getting on social media. So yeah, it wasn't a moment, it was more of a gradual sort of realization.
Yeah, no, I see. I mean, your landscapes do evoke a very strong sense of place, a memory or a nostalgia, but also they are done in quite a modern way. I just wonder if you could tell us a little bit about, the travel and the personal memories that feed into your work.
Yeah, of course. So after that small initial project on my daughter's jacket, I started experimenting with different stitches and subject matter for about a month or so before I realized that creating landscapes was going to be a really big passion of mine. Like we touched on, this was during the pandemic. So, yeah, I was starting to get a little stir crazy and needed an outlet. And I found that creating embroideries based on places that I had been or places that I had wanted to travel to at some point in the future allowed my mind to get out of the house. And I discovered that stitching places that I had good memories of helped ease the restlessness that was building up.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yes, I think we can all relate to that. It was a
right.
difficult time, wasn't it?
Definitely. So, yeah, it allowed me to sort of relive my time in those places while I was stitching, and that made it really enjoyable.
Wonderful. So, I mean, could you give us a little bit of an overview, perhaps, of your work regarding the type of fabric you use and the type of threads you use?
Sure. So, I do what is called a thread painting technique, and I find that the base fabric that's best for that is sort of like a mid-weight. I use 100% cotton duck canvas just because it's sturdy but flexible. But yeah, it's sturdy enough to support all the stitches that I create. And I typically use a size 26 tapestry needle just because the eye is a little bit bigger than the traditional embroidery needle, and I could
Mm.
use a different amount of threads without having to switch out my needle. And I use DMC six-stranded embroidery floss, normally 2 strands, but the number of strands varies for the level of detail I'm trying to achieve in my pieces.
Could you tell me how you get the design onto the fabric? Do you sort of do that beforehand, or do you just work it as you go along?
When I was originally starting out, I would kind of just freehand draw either designs that I just thought up or kind of based on a reference photo, but I would just look at the photo, freehand draw it with just a water soluble marker onto my fabric. But now that my designs are a lot more detailed, I always tend to work off of a reference photo. I use Procreate to create my design. It's an app that I use on my iPad, and it allows me
Mhm.
to trace over the actual reference photo, and then I print out that design that I've traced and use like a light box or some sort of light source to trace the design onto my fabric that way with a thermosensitive pen. Those pens tend to have a finer point so that I can get all that detail without my guidelines kind of blending together. So that's how I transfer my designs nowadays.
And when you actually come to work, I mean, I know that you use an embroidery hoop to actually present your finished design, don't you?
Mhm.
But I'm presuming that you don't work in the same hoop. So, how do you, because you wouldn't be able to get right to the edges.
Right. No, I work on like a little bit bigger. I work on a 5-inch hoop more most of the time. And to transfer my work over, I use a 3-inch like display hoop when I'm done so that my work does go all the way to the edge of that smaller hoop.
And is it quite difficult to get them in?
Sometimes it is, especially when I'm doing a lot of French knot work around the edges. So, what I like to do sometimes is sort of just do a little bit of satin stitch around the edges and then the French knot work so that I'm not trying to squeeze all the French knots in between the 2 hoops, where the satin stitch can kind of lay in between those hoops easier. I don't know, it's hard to
Mhm.
explain.
Yeah. No, you need something that's flatter, obviously, don't you,
Right.
rather than more textured. I
Yeah,
understand.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you mentioned sometimes drawing inspiration from vintage oil paintings as well as photos. How does that how does that sort of work for you? How do you manage to go from a vintage painting to a thread painting?
Well, I am a very detailed oriented person, and it's just really satisfying for me to study a reference photo and then try to capture all the little subtleties with a medium that's different from the original. And I just remember when I was first starting out, I liked to challenge myself to recreate old landscape paintings and was drawn to and still am drawn to the impressionist style because the brushstrokes are very visible and the changes between the paint colors are more obvious. And this made it more easy for me to place my own stitches in my design. And then as I became more confident in my abilities, I pushed myself to try for more realism in my work. And that kind of helped me put my color blending skills to the test.
I
Yeah.
can imagine.
Yeah.
Do you actually blend colours in the needle ever? Do you use sort of maybe so many strands of one colour and so many strands of another, or
I don't typically blend the colors in my needle, I just blend them with my stitches. Yeah, more one at a time instead of trying to do multiple colors in the needle.
because your stitching is very textured, isn't it? So you obviously got a lot of thread going through the fabric.
Mhm. Yeah. It builds up. It definitely builds up. That's what sometimes when it builds up and it's harder for me to push my tapestry needle through, I switch to a chenille needle with a sharper point, and that makes things a little bit easier.
What was it that made you decide on the embroidery hoop presentation?
I just felt like it was just the traditional way to display an embroidery, so I kinda just stuck with it.
Have you ever tried anything else, or
I I had worked on one that I was planning to kind of stretch over a frame, and I haven't finished it. So I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to that, but I think it would be cool to kind of display it as like more like a painting, like a rectangular shape instead of a circle. So I'm planning maybe hopefully getting back to that one and finishing it to see what it looks like. But no, I just tend to stick with the hoops.
yeah, is it that you see the designs as being circular?
Um, I actually I don't know, because they are originally rectangular, like the photos I take or the paintings that I'm inspired by. So I kind of have to crop them in a circular shape to create my embroidery hoops. So I don't know. I feel like it might be easier to just stick with them being rectangular, but I don't know. I feel like working with the embroidery hoops, it's a circular shape, so I just keep it as it
Mm.
is.
Yeah. I know that on your website you say that you find embroidery therapeutic.
Mhm.
And I just wondered how important the mindfulness and emotion part is to you when you're stitching.
Well, it's very important for me to have embroidery be a relaxing and creative outlet, and just being able to temporarily let everything else go and just focus on what I'm stitching keeps me balanced, and I feel more regulated, kind of returning back to my responsibilities afterwards. I think landscapes in themselves evoke feelings of peace for the most part, so
Mm.
stitching them sort of pulls me into those peaceful scenes, which helps my process.
I know that you're a busy person, you're a busy mum. Do you ever sort of struggle between the stitching for yourself and the stitching for the public, for the sale, obviously now for a book? How do you sort of stay true to what it is you want to express?
I feel like I've been very lucky to be able to produce exactly what I want, and it's been positively received once I put it out into the world. So, yeah, I've been very lucky with that. But even if that wasn't the case, it's important for me to stay true to myself and create what makes me happy, regardless of if it will be liked by the public. Just because, in my experience, once I start creating solely for other people, I start to lose sight of what inspired me to get into it in the first place, and I don't ever wanna lose the joy in this.
Absolutely, because they are, I mean, they're lovely, sort of individual small masterpieces, aren't they? So
Thank you.
you've really got to be very sort of committed to them, obviously, to produce something so beautiful.
Right.
And I would imagine that, yeah, as you say, that it is a little bit of a tug between wanting to put the work in, but still being aware that, of course, you know, you are doing this as a business, aren't you? And you are
Mhm.
obviously eventually hoping that people will buy the piece you're working on.
Yeah. Like I said, like, I've received so much support and kind words from the very beginning, so I've been very lucky with being able to create what I want, but still have the public like it.
Have you ever sort of done these as a, I'm going to say, as a craft market? Have you ever taken them yourself to somewhere, either a gallery or a craft market, or to try and sell them, and had that sort of direct contact with the public?
I have not. I feel like maybe I'd be interested in that in the future. It's just they take so long to create that I would have to build up stock in order to sell them. And
Mm.
they take so long that creating that many to sell in a market would, I feel, just take forever.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you do commissions, don't you?
Yeah, every once in a while when time allows for that.
Mm. Does someone sort of commission a place that they want commemorating or?
Normally, yeah, they have the option of just submitting a picture that means something to them. A lot of the time it is photos that they have taken themselves of like vacations or just places that mean something to them. And sometimes it's pictures of like a vintage oil painting that they really like. So, yeah, it's a good mix, and it kinda keeps me it breaks up the, like, routine of working on my own pieces, and then I get to be inspired by their submissions and what their photo means to them, so that's been nice.
Mhm. And do you enjoy working on someone else's, or would you actually prefer to stay with your own choice of, subject matter?
I like, working on other people's sometimes, that's why I don't do them very, very often, I don't do commissions regularly, just because I do love working on my own things. So when I
Mm.
feel like I'm kind of getting burnt out on my own stuff, then I'll open commissions again and be able to work on someone else's thing.
I imagine that you've had an awful lot of work to do with actually putting a book together, because
Yes.
that's I'd love to that was very heartfelt then.
It's been a lot.
I can imagine. Could you tell us a little bit about the process and how it actually worked?
Sure, yes. I was approached when was this? I was approached in January of 2024 about writing a book with C&T Publishing and decided that it was an amazing opportunity and kind of the next natural step in my embroidery career. I've been just open to things as they've come up. So I decided to say yes and got started right away. And it was absolutely a labor of love because I have never written a book before and I had no idea just how much work it was going to be. But I'm so happy with the final result.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful book, but
Thank
it must have been, very hard work, because it is, isn't it, to create so many pieces.
you. We were going back and forth at the beginning kind of what they expected of me, and I was very nervous at the amount of projects that I was gonna have to produce for this,
Mm.
but it worked out.
It certainly did. Did you do your own photography?
I did everything, yes,
Oh, okay.
my husband is a photographer, so we had all the equipment here, and he helped me with, like, the settings on the camera and stuff, and he helped me take a couple pictures that I couldn't take myself of, like, the styled shots, but for all of the tutorials, all of the projects, most of the styled shots, I took all those pictures. I wrote all the words, all the steps to each project.
Mm.
Yeah, it was a whole lot of work.
Yes, I'm sure it was. It must have been an amazing feeling once you'd done it and sent it off.
Oh gosh, it was great, yeah.
Mm. And to see the first copy of the book, I should imagine that was great as well.
Yeah, seeing all the pages laid out, everything put together, it was an amazing feeling to see this vision come to light.
Obviously, I haven't actually seen a copy of the book.
Mhm.
It's not out yet, is it? So
Not yet.
when does it actually is it available for people to
The
purchase?
the set release date is April 28th, 2026.
Ah, right. So a little time
A
yet.
little bit of time, yeah, mhm.
But I presume people could pre-order.
Yeah, it's on Amazon and Barnes& and Nobles right now to pre-order, and can I explain a little bit more about what's in the book?
Oh, please do. I
Okay.
was just going to ask you, was it projects or,
Yeah.
um
So it's 160 pages and you'll learn about the thread painting hand embroidery technique and how to create realistic landscape pieces with it. And throughout the book, I guide you through 10 tutorials. They're sort of like mini tutorials and you'll learn each kind of natural element, how to create each natural element, like clouds and grass and waves. And then there are also 7 full landscape projects, and those all progress from beginner to advanced. And there are written and visual step-by-step instructions. There's color guides and tips and techniques that I share from my own personal experience so that stitching these landscape patterns is pretty accessible to every embroidery enthusiast.
Wonderful. And what is it about a piece that you would say made it either beginner or advanced?
Just the stitch directions, kind of like there's not as many stitch directional changes. The types of stitches aren't that advanced for beginners, or there aren't as many of, say, like French knots, for example, tend to be tricky for some people. In the beginner pieces, there either aren't French knots or there are very little. And then you kind of work your way through the book and it progresses to like more of these decorative stitches or lots more directional changes where you have to figure out how to create these curves with my instructions. And yeah, it's just more, let me think. In the more advanced pieces, there are lots more elements like rocks and waves crashing and things like that.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Mhm.
So, obviously now you must have as we was touching on before, an amazing feeling when you sort of see this book and it's your work. Does it change the way that you see yourself as an artist? Because now, you're a published author as well, so you've really sort of achieved a lot. Does it change the way you view yourself?
Since the very beginning, I've kind of deal with imposter syndrome.
I think
Um,
we all do, to
I
be
it's
honest.
just specifically earlier on when I used to get compliments on my early works that were recreations of old oil paintings, which I would always be transparent about and give the original artist credit. But yeah, I'd be like, "Thanks so much, but, make sure to check out the original because I didn't create that original piece." So I just couldn't take full credit in those instances. So I kind of just I don't know, it's hard for me. I don't It's kind of a surreal feeling to have so many people express interest in my art, but
Yeah.
it's really flattering that they find enough value in what I do to want to buy it or learn from me, and I'm just so grateful for all the support.
Have you taken any classes? Have you taught anyone hands-on? Have you been asked to tutor?
I did a virtual workshop in the past, and that was great. That was my first experience kind of teaching people, but it wasn't in person, and I have not done that yet. I haven't taught anyone in person. I'm kind of more comfortable doing things virtually for now,
Mhm,
but yeah, I feel like that is the way it's kind of that's the direction I'm kinda going, and I can see myself eventually teaching in person,
mhm.
but for the time being, I have not.
How long do the pieces take you? I mean, I know that they'll all be slightly different because
Right.
that, as you say, there's elements of complexity, but I just wondered as an average how long they took to work.
As an average, probably I'd say, like, anywhere between, like, 30 to 50 hours, but that kind of is spread through over a couple weeks, just depending on how much time I'm able to work on them per day, because that
Mhm,
changes with, my schedule. I have to pick up kids and, do stuff around the house. But, yeah, I would say, like, maybe 35, 40 hours probably on average.
mhm. So that's quite a consideration of time, isn't it?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So obviously to do the number that you'd need to do for a book, that's a long time.
Yeah, I was working hard on that, just cranking
Yeah.
those out. But yeah.
Did you ever get to the point where you thought, "Oh, I just can't do this?"
That's so funny. Frequently. But, I mean, I loved it. I really did. I was proud of myself. Like, I would be like, "I am over this, like, this is a lot, this is too much work." But then, I would finish one and then I would start on the next, and I was just cranking through them, like, keeping my head down, getting through these pieces, and at the end, I was like, "Wow, I did that." So I was proud of
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So you should be. I mean, as you say, it's a huge amount of work. But I think probably everybody gets to that point, don't they? Partway through
Yeah.
a project, they think, I can't do this.
Yeah. Like, don't give up.
So, I mean, your actual website is really beautiful. I mean,
Oh, thank
and
you.
I'm particularly struck by the images, which are gorgeous. They're some beautiful close-up shots. Now that I know what your husband does, I perhaps understand where he's obviously got some amazing cameras.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but it's so vital, isn't it, to have them shown in the best possible way.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think having an online presence, for me at least, helps, spark interest in my work and people see my pieces, especially the ones that are in progress, because I like to post my progress photos throughout the course of me creating them. And I think in doing that, they see my work along the way and they feel invested with them and like because they follow along and they can see it coming to life. And so when it's finished, they're like really proud of it too. I think, I mean, at least that's the impression that I get from the comments and stuff. But yeah, I feel like people like to follow along with me with the photos that I post.
I'm sure, because actually, I think if somebody doesn't embroider themselves, they don't necessarily understand the time and the processes that go into it, do they?
Yeah, that too.
So I suppose if they're following along with you, then that gives them a real insight into what's involved.
Yeah, they absolutely get a better understanding.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they do. So you were saying that you're quite active on social media. That can
hmm
add quite a lot of time, can't it?
It can. I try and post pictures here and there. I think I've slowed down a bit creating the book. It took a lot of work, so I wasn't as active on Instagram, but I started a YouTube channel where I post like videos also now. So that has been a lot of work, but it's helped me gain more of a following, which is pretty cool. So yeah.
Do you ever get asked for kits for something?
I've been asked if I sell those. Yeah, I don't, unfortunately, but I do sell like just patterns. So not kits that have all the things included, like the floss and stuff, but I do sell like PDF patterns on my website. So
Hmm.
that's something.
So if a kit manufacturer gets in touch, you'd be interested.
That kind of would be cool. Yeah, I would
So if
be
there's
interested.
anyone out there listening,
Yeah. Send me an email.
yeah, why not? Why not? I should think they would be absolutely perfect for that, to be honest.
That would be yeah, I would definitely be interested in that. I just feel
Mm.
like for myself, I think it'd be, I don't know, a lot of work putting that all together, but if someone was interested in helping me with that, yeah.
Yeah, because each one has a lot of different. It's got a really big color range in it, hasn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. Lots and lots of colors.
Mm.
They can
So
get
lots of colours to cut up and put in a kit.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. So what's sort of coming down the line? I know maybe you're just fresh out of doing the book now, and it's been a lot, I know.
Mhm.
But would you consider doing another one, or are there other things you'd like to progress to?
Anything's possible.
Of course it is.
Yeah, anything is possible. I'm working on not saying no to a whole lot right now. I'm just kinda taking things that come my way and, you never know. I'm not gonna say no to that.
Okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. So maybe yes to another book. And I suppose the other thing that comes to mind when I look at these, wouldn't they make gorgeous cards?
Yeah, I've been looking into creating prints of these.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to find the right company to go through that with, possibly maybe finding someone local. But yeah, I've definitely been thinking about creating prints of my work.
I could absolutely see those would look amazing. And
Yeah.
obviously you already have somebody that's going to do amazing photography for you, haven't you?
Right. It makes it a little bit easier.
Yes, yeah. And I suppose obviously with each one taking quite a long time, that's a great way of someone being able to have one, and
Right.
to share with others without actually either having to work it themselves or obviously buy an original.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm looking into.
Hmm. So I just wondered, as someone who's carved their own path in textile art, I wondered what advice you would give to makers who are stuck perhaps between traditional embroidery and wanting to find their own voice.
I touch on this in a chapter in my book, but the advice I would give would be to create what you love, to challenge yourself, and to embrace your mistakes. Once you figure out the subject matter that you really love to embroider, the whole process of stitching is so much more enjoyable. And experiment with stitches or techniques you normally wouldn't try because you might discover like a unique method of combining those skills to create something new. And as far as mistakes, we learn by making mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes turn out to be happy accidents and you end up liking them. But, when you don't, there's always the seam ripper.
Have you ever sort of started a piece and it hasn't worked out as you planned? What do you do then? Do you abandon it or do you start to unpick it or
I will never abandon a piece. Like if I am wanting to work on this thing and I start, I'm like, okay, I am gonna try and see this through. So I rarely use a seam ripper myself. I kind of tend to blend away my mistakes with my stitches instead and just kind of keep going because with the thread painting technique, I feel like it's easy to kind of overlap your stitches that you didn't like and just kind of erase them with new stitches. So I keep going with it. I don't unpick
Mhm.
things.
Which I suppose is actually quite like an oil painting, isn't it? You can sort of paint over what's there without having to actually take it off.
Right, exactly.
The other thing that comes to mind is that you must have an awful lot of needle threading to do. Do you get them all threaded up and then leave them sort of on a magnetic clip or something at the side and then just use them as you want? Or do you go
Like,
through and do all one colour and then
oh, I see what you're saying.
Mm.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stitching involved. I have tried working on multiple needles. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, sort of having them threaded it with different coloured thread.
I've tried that actually on the piece that I was talking about stretching over canvas, the rectangular piece I had been working on, which was interesting. It was my first experience trying that. And I found that it was kind of easier to remember what colors were going where. But I normally just do one color at a time and I snip it off when I'm done with that color and thread my needle with the next color. So I do just one by one. So the backs of my pieces end up looking pretty crazy with all the with all the loose
Yes.
little strands sticking out. But yeah, I feel like it's easier for me to do one color at a time.
I know I probably shouldn't ask this, so I apologise, but,
Yeah.
what actually happens on the back? Because obviously we only see the front, don't we? Do you finish the back in any way or do you just
Yeah,
leave all of the threads showing?
I kind of do both. So I close the back, like I cover it with felt. But I sometimes leave, like, a little hole or, like, some sort of cutting out of the felt so that you could see a little bit of all the stitching that went into making them, like, all the little loose threads, you could still kinda see a part of it just because I think the backs are really pretty in a weird way because there's so much thread overlapping because I travel my stitches, so there's just overlapping random strands here and there and, like, loose little flyaway strands, but it's so colorful and pretty, so I leave a little bit of that visible after I close the backs of my pieces normally.
Oh, wonderful. So you leave a little window into what you've done.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's great actually that you do travel the thread over the back and you don't cut it off because, oh gosh, that's I mean, just finishing all of those threads, it's just going to take forever.
And I don't, like, knot the threads or anything like that, I kinda just if I'm ending a stitch or ending a color, I will just kind of, push my needle through all those, like, random stitches that are across the back and then snip it off so that doesn't create too much extra bulk with, like, knots.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand. And do you find that people collect your work, that they maybe buy multiple pieces from you?
Yeah, I actually have several clients who have bought multiple pieces from me, and I just kind of blown away with like the fact that they like my work so much that they keep buying from me. So I am very grateful for them, but for anyone who wants to purchase one of my works. But yeah, I have a couple that are repeat customers.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Are they collecting around a theme?
I'm not sure. I have one woman who has ordered from all the way from my earlier work. So I was really into satin stitch all the way to now. And she's done a couple commissions from me. So I don't know if maybe they speak to her and they're like kind of a
So,
collection.
so she's not collecting all seascapes or
No, no, no. I
watercolor
don't.
landscapes.
No. Mm-mm.
What she likes to, obviously, what appeal to her.
Right.
Do you ever have gallery exhibitions?
I just recently participated in my first one.
Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it was an open call here in town at a local art center, and they have a gallery, and my piece was selected to be a part of it. So it was a very cool milestone for me to be able to participate in that.
Mm. And I imagine quite a lot of work because even filling a quite a relatively small space is obviously a big time consideration, isn't it?
Yeah. It was kind of funny because my piece was up there on the wall. It was a bigger piece than I normally do. Normally, my completed works are about 3.5 inches, but I made a little bit of a bigger one for this particular show. And still seeing it up on the wall, it was so funny because it was next to, the other artists and their works, and everyone else's was so much bigger than mine, and mine was like, "Little guy on the wall." Um, but yeah, it was great.
Do you find when you're doing so much stitching that you have to constantly adjust so that you don't get, I don't know, a neck ache or hand ache, or do you have sort of strategies for avoiding that?
Mm, I just try and sit up as straight as I can. I make use of my table, like hoop stand. I have a tabletop hoop stand, and that helps me out, especially when I'm doing like French knot work. But I've bought these glasses. I don't know what you call them. They're like prism glasses, or you can
Like
just
a magnifier or
no, they're not magnifying. You are able to keep your head straight, like you're looking straight out the window. But with these glasses on, it's like a mirror kind of inside the lens, and it helps you could see down on the table. I don't know what they're called. They're like prism glasses, I think, but they help with, like, neck aches, but I don't really use them that often, but I thought they would help me, but I just try to sit up straight as I can now, and my hands, luckily, I don't have much issue with my hands or wrists.
because there's actually a lot of thread, isn't there, going through that fabric, and
Mhm.
I imagine it all gets quite crowded and you have to pull.
Um, yeah, as far as, like, the thickness of my work when all these layers are kind of adding up, I just I have these little pad thimbles. They're like adhesive thimbles that I kinda use every once in a while when it's, like, really hard to push through my work, and then, like I said, the chenille needle will help as well.
Yeah, chenille needles are wonderful, aren't they?
Mhm. And they have the
Uh,
big eye also, like, the
mm,
tapestry needles so that you could just fit as many strands through as you need,
mm.
without having to go up or down in the size of needle.
But unlike the tapestry, they have a sharp point, don't they? So you can really pierce the work. I suppose I wanted really to ask you what you thought the future of embroidery is, especially thinking about the kind of embroidery that you do, the landscape embroidery.
Mhm.
Um, in general, in the art and craft world, how do you see embroidery moving forward?
I think art is always evolving, and creative people are always finding new ways to express themselves and their talent, and I only see this art form getting more popular, which I am really excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, as you say, it's very, I'm trying to say relaxing, I think, but it's
Mm,
it's very mindful, isn't it? Very
right.
relaxing. If you have a stressful day, then
Mhm.
it's a great way of just unwinding from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like since I started I've been seeing more and more people posting about embroidery and their interest in embroidery because it is relaxing and it's just a great way to spend some time like with yourself and focus on something that is like peaceful and relaxing and
Mm.
yeah, it's just a great like pastime.
Have you found that, when obviously if you're having to make something for a gallery or you're having to make something for a book, that being sort of sounds awful saying forced,
Mm,
but obviously you've got a time pressure there.
yeah,
Does that interfere with your enjoyment of actually making that piece if you know that you're under pressure?
it was definitely a stressor to know that I have this deadline. So knowing that, it was a little bit stressful, but not so much to where I was completely taken out of like the enjoyment of the work. Like I always enjoy stitching. So that it added a little bit of stress, but it wasn't so bad to where I just was like, completely give up, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you sound like a very organized person. So do you actually allocate yourself time to stitch? Is it something that you say, right, well, I'm taking a block of time there and on this morning I'm going to do, this amount of stitching. Is that something you do?
Yes, I try to sit down and stitch the same time every day. And that time has changed throughout the years. Like when I started, I would work on it during my kid's nap, just any chance I could get. But she went down for a nap at the same time every day. So I'm like, okay, this is my time to sit and just do something for me.
Hmm.
And so I would do that. And now they're in school. So I have time throughout the day as well. So I try and sit down at the same time because I feel like in doing that and setting time aside, I'm more productive with creating my pieces and I make steady progress on them.
And do your children show an interest themselves? Is it something that you've actually perhaps tried to encourage them to do?
Both my kids have wanted me to make them pieces to hang in their rooms, so they like looking at it. My daughter's the one who actually wanted to try it, so we bought her, like, a little kit with, simple, cute little patterns stitched, and she was trying to, do the work, and it was really cool seeing her take an interest in what I do and wanting to try and do it herself.
And a nice thing to do together, I would think.
Yeah, it was fun. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. So I wonder when you sort of look back, 5 years from now, what do you hope that your legacy will be? As an embroidery artist, how would you see yourself?
Well, I hope I'm able to find new ways to explore with embroidery and that I'm able to keep sharing my knowledge with those who want to learn from me. And just right now, I'm keeping myself open to the possibilities and trying to say yes to opportunities that arise. So, yeah,
So you see this as being very much your full-time career path from now on?
I hope so. Yeah, that is the
Mm.
plan.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything sort of that's coming up, or anything that people should keep an eye out for if they're interested in your work? Obviously, I know you've got the book. Just could you just tell us the title?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that might be something important to know. The book is called Richly Stitched Landscape Embroidery Mastering Thread Painted Scenes.
Wonderful, and it's by the publisher is.
C&T Publishing.
Thank you.
It's just the book for now. That's what I've got coming up. So I've
Mhm.
been focused on that.
I know you saying it's a lot to do it, but when you finished it, it must have been a huge sense of achievement
Oh,
and relief,
absolutely.
probably.
Absolutely. Yes. I felt like I accomplished something like big and, just proud of myself and
That's
thankful to all
good.
the help that I got from like the team that worked with me at CNC Publishing, these amazing women who just helped guide me through this process. So they made it easy for me. Yeah.
That's wonderful because, as you say, I mean, if you haven't done it before, it's a new process.
Oh, completely new. I
Um,
had no idea what I was doing.
so they talked you through it and said, "Well, by this time you need to have done this," or
Yeah. They laid everything out for me. My editor, Madison, was amazing. She, answered any questions. She was very easy to work with. They've all been very great to work with. So yeah, it's been a very good learning experience and just, yeah.
Were they very strict with you, over timekeeping?
Well, like you said, I am organized. So I am on top of my deadlines. I make sure I get things done when they're supposed to be done. But they've always let me know that if I need, a little bit extra time here and there, just let them know and they'll work with me on that.
Oh, I would think that was probably quite a dangerous thing to say to some people.
Yeah.
Just make it open-ended.
Right.
But no, that's great. Cassandra, thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast with me. It has been an absolute pleasure to hear more about your work and obviously about your wonderful book that's coming out. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was my first podcast and I really enjoyed it.